So I appreciate Brian coming on. You know, we do big business, and I'm here, happy to talk to you guys. I'll make it fun. We got a lot of ladies in the room, so we'll definitely show you something from the men's locker room. And for the men in the room, we're going to talk a little bit about lingerie. So we'll mix it up, let everybody have some fun. I want to start with really like a grounding exercise. I think, we're going to kind of back our way. We're going to back our way into how to fill up the riding school. And so raise your hand if you buy stuff on the internet. Anybody? Buy stuff on the internet drunk. Buy stuff on the internet when you're like at a red light, right? Okay, so thank you. You pay me. This is how I get paid. I sit there and I soak it up. No, what I do professionally is I build big brands. I do a bunch of Amazon stuff. We can get, we probably got 40 SKUs into Walmart in the past 12 months. We do big consumer products. But I'll tell you, they would look at you and say that there's things about the businesses that you run, like the people that I work with, the big brands, they would find incredibly attractive. So I want to make sure I give you guys some kind of like situational awareness of where you kind of are in the ecosystem as the rest of us maybe see you, and then kind of like what that all kind of like, looks like. So, I'm Conor, and it's nice to meet you. I kind of, you're winding me up. I have a lot of domain experience here. So if anybody has a question, just raise your hand and I can stop, no problem. So that's me, and that's my daughter when she was still eligible for the lead line races at the pony races. Maryland's a big field race over timber, scene here. So this is at the local, sanctioned steeplechase race. She came in second. Is Brian in the room? Hey, Brian, how'd this race go for you, bud? My kid beat his kid. And I actually have an alpaca farm. So we raise exquisite of the best genetics alpacas. I got ponies too. We rescue ponies. We rescue everything, but we're mostly in alpaca shops. That's my daughter holding a pretty freshly baked one. There's a really freshly baked one. That one is like maybe a half an hour old. And so that one, the Smithsonian National Zoo has reached out to us, and so our alpacas will actually be the national alpacas in about a month. They are replacing their alpacas with our fine specimens. So we have Maryland alpacas working their way to DC. And so, I have an emotional connection to horses, okay, personally. I love it. Brian knows it. I love it. I don't have any time, but I love it. And every chance I get, I want to be part of it. And like, this is not an exaggeration. The first time that I am actually marketed to do lessons myself, I will bite. And I can pay. And even if I don't show up, I'm going to pay, right? But Brian knows that I want to be marketed to. I don't want to be a supplicant. I don't want to, email your form and wait and, I got money, man. I want your best horse. I want your best instructor. I want a time that's convenient for me, and I want to be sold to, and I want to pay. Do you have a credit card on you? Yeah, let's go. Yeah, recurring, it's like, great. Come to my house and bring 10 horses. I don't know. So, anytime I get a chance to, when I have the time, I do, I want to do it. And, it's for the fun of it. It's for the irreverence of it. So the first video on the left, these are literally the best steeplechase horses in America. So if you look at European steeplechase, as our friend in the back probably knows, there's 10 times as many of them, right? And in the United States, there's much less, and the ones on the left are the best, and this is the best trainer in the sport. We're on his farm, and anybody pays close attention, you're going to see one of these ducks is not like the other one. I don't know if you can see on the left. That donkey jumps, no joke. That donkey jumps. And in Maryland, this is like the fun part about it. Like, we're here to have fun. We're here to win. We're also here to have fun. So, another one, this is also on his farm. Who do you think is going to win over these three riders? Oh, it's the dog. That is the horse that won the Maryland Hunt Cup 2 years ago. That is the no joke running sets. And I don't know if you noticed the rider in that, Mr. Brian Woulfe. Jumped on a fresh horse, with the best steeplechase riders, in Maryland, and just said, let's go. And that was kind of scary, actually. They did a great job. All right, so look, I'm not a businessman, right? I'm a business. I do so many different things, right? I've built brands, I advise brands, we do Walmart, I do all this international stuff, I do all this stuff. So, I'm just going to be kind of coming to you, not having a tremendous domain experience in your world, but a lot in my world. So, I don't know if everybody have had vitamin water or smart water. I was doing that before you could give it away. We sold it to Coke for $4.2 billion. I was on the Coke guy for a while, did hundreds of millions a there. I was like kind of the mid-Atlantic guy. And I don't know if you know TheraBand, but I ran the largest global e-commerce business for physical therapy and rehabilitation. And just like you, it's like, what a great job to have. You're making people's lives better. You're making them healthier. Our customers are hospitals, occupational therapists in the burn rehabilitation unit of the hospital. Couldn't find a better client base. BioFreeze, Brian referenced, we just sold that one to Reckitt for $1 billion a couple years ago. That was really cool. Elasticon, I think you guys probably know this one. I've sold so much Elasticon. Holy smokes, you wouldn't even believe it. I think I sold like 5,000 the past few days. And then, we get some fun brands too. Like just as I'm under NDA on a lot of my clients, but there's a Shark Tank brand called the Spatty. She's still a client, second year, and we're just, helping people sell product, right? Building brands. So Earth to you guys, like we actually live in the future. Like this is the future that we've kind of been talking about. And so, I don't know who knows this, but this is the men's locker room. This is from the men's locker room. This used to be a thoroughbred farm, Turf Valley. And what it was carved out of is actually the Carroll estate, one of the original signers of the Declaration of Independence. And the family still has a few thousand acres down the road, which is hard to come by in Maryland. We're not that big. And what they like to say is the only people that have kind of owned that land are God, the Indians, and the Carrolls. And now you are actually on a 1,000-acre carve-out. So I thought it was actually cool. I don't know if you guys knew this. This is like a really like serious like thoroughbred racing heritage that we are on right now. This is like where it was. But this is how you kind of used to have to develop your business. I mean, you kind of like put an ad out there. You kind of like hope that people saw it. You'd hope they read it. You'd use this like super creative copy. You had to like, you'd have one thing, like you'd have to really lock that ad up, and then you'd have to run it. So like not much changed. The one on the left is maybe a couple hundred years old, and the one on the right is maybe 100 years old. And I actually, in my house, collect historical Maryland advertising, and that one on the right is in my bar, the original, one of the originals. But we are living in the future, right? And so one thing I want to like point out, like these are the largest companies in the United States. What do they have in common? Well, these ones take your advertising dollars, right? So like of the top 7, 3 of the big ones, like Amazon stock price in a large part these days is actually driven by ad dollars. Of course, Facebook, like that's what they do. You don't pay for Facebook, right? Nobody pays for it. You are the product, right? And Google is like a little bit threatened by TikTok, but still at the end of the day, their core business is in search. These guys, their whole remit is to make it easy for people like you to spend money, to make money, right? That's kind of how the whole thing works, right? If you're the Budweiser guy and you've got $1 billion budget, you don't super care if you're making money on these guys, but they recognize like small businesses, this is their bread and butter, right? I mean, so, I obviously am very familiar with the physical therapy industry, so physical therapy clinics, somewhat similar to your business, right? People come in, they pay for services. You wouldn't believe what they pay on Google. You wouldn't believe their budgets. Physical therapists near me, or like, my leg hurts, or whatever, right? So they are recognizing that they're spending this much money, and it's worth it for them. But so just like, let this one sink in. Like, they're not here to make it hard for you. They're here to make it easy for you. It's up to you to say, what kind of works for me. Also, if you just look at these kind of like complicated charts, on the left, it's like people have stopped spending on print, on radio, on TV, right? on the right-hand side, look at the size. Look at the sheer size of the advertising game here. I mean, I run insane. Brian was right. With like hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising, billions of dollars transactions on Amazon, but we do it on the other. Like, look at, and this is 2023. Like, look at TikTok. Or TikTok's all anybody talks about. TikTok is about virality. They're just figuring out the monetization game. Look how big Meta is, right? That's where you guys kind of play in the Facebook and the Instagrams of the world. Be on TikTok too. And I love the previous presenter talking about having that polished social media presence. It's about conversion too. It's not just about image. Somebody's thinking, hey, is this right for me? Very, 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 very easy to turn someone off. We call that either accelerating conversion or overcoming objection. Like that's what from a conversion perspective, that's what I want to do. Do I get you to smashing that subscribe button? You go, I have a bad back. Can I ride a horse? Or I'm whatever. Can I ride a horse? Or will the horse bite me? You just don't know, right? So you don't want to introduce things that cause more problems, with what you're trying to put out there. You should be doing the opposite, right? You should focus on your brand, but you also want to convert. This is the purchase funnel. Now, people have perspective on whether or not this is accurate these days. I think it's a good visual, right? People, are they even aware that, like, there's rich people, guys. Amazon is like, I hunt in Amazon, right? I am a killer. I hunt in Amazon. Guess what? Rich people, do you think they're looking at the price? No, they want, and they want it right now, right? And so you're kind of in a similar situation. There's plenty of people with plenty of disposable income. You're actually targeting really good demographic cohorts. People will spend any money on their children, and people who are getting a little older, want to like enjoy life a little bit, they have disposable income too. It's about where they're spending it, right? Especially post-COVID, people are looking for experiences. So, where are we kind of hitting them along this purchase funnel, right? A lot of your kind of social media stuff is like awareness. And then how are we kind of getting them down into that funnel to turn them into customers? And I think, at least when Brian and I have conversations about this industry, one of the great things, and I'll talk about it over the next few minutes here, is like, you can have so many people click on your ad and not buy a thing from you. And the whole exercise is still incredibly lucrative for you. My favorite ad is one that someone doesn't click on. In many instances, that doesn't cost me any money. But you better believe they are going to sometimes remember, hey, it is a thing that I could be riding horses, right? It is a thing. So you can kind of create awareness in the market without spending a nickel. I mean, here's the secret, right? This is kind of like one of the things I want you to internalize. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Like, that's me, right? There's people like me. I mean, I have teams. Like, there's like huge billion-dollar agencies running everything on Amazon. There's nothing that's like, you're a consumer and you're like, boop, 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 I'm checking it out. Like, we are like very focused on that because it's millions or billions of dollars, right? So you go, the companies are really big. They're making it easy for me. Everybody's doing it, right? It's working for everybody else. We just need to make it work for you. And part of that is having kind of an existential understanding of like who you are, how you approach it. Generally, there's two ways to buy digital advertising. There's pay-per-click, cost per click, PPC, and then there's CPM, which is display advertising, where you typically pay a certain amount of money for 1,000 impressions. This is kind of how it's valued in the industry, right? You guys can play in both, right? Like Google is very traditionally, Google is like a PPC, and then the other platforms can be done other ways. The only thing that I would kind of just discourage you from doing is, I'm gonna choose my words very carefully here, because I have partners who feel like their web properties are worth a very high cost per 1,000 impressions, right? We want to be smart when we do spend money, right? I think we want to be flexible with a loose hand on the rack up, but we want to be smart. So if somebody comes, hey, I have this like this prop, it happens a lot, right? They're like, hey, I have this web property that's unique to your geography. Why don't you pay me a $30 CPM? That's where you should be like, let's maybe validate that. Like, let's think about that. But I think if we're paying cost per click, it's pretty straightforward. We pay if somebody clicks it, right? So if it's good targeting and it's working for us, it makes sense. So this is an Amazon search results page, right, for a horse bridle, okay? Those are all ads. Just let that sink in, right? So it's working in the industry from a product's perspective, right? And all the players are kind of geared up, right? This is lower funnel, right? This is not people searching for how do I learn. That's kind of what Google is for at the upper funnel. How do I learn how to get the right bridle? This is like, I have the credit card out and buying a bridle today. This is lower funnel. We talked about that funnel. This is lower funnel, right? The equivalent Google search was like, I want to take a riding lesson on Thursday, not, you kind of wade in the water. So we want to think about upper funnel, lower funnel. Here's Target. I said we'd talk about lingerie. I have a brassiere client. We ran 30 million ads in the past 2 weeks in this category, right? So scale should not intimidate you, right? It shouldn't. It's an opportunity, right? You really shouldn't be intimidated. If you inspect what you expect, then you're not going to be surprised, right? Don't overcommit resources. Don't let your ads run for a month without looking at them, right? Pay attention. We're, of course, running a gazillion ads, on Target right now in this category. We're paying a lot of attention, right? Those are ads. First two are the Target search results. They just changed it. Didn't used to be that way, right? Like, how much do you think Hanes is spending on Target advertising? Tens of millions. And then here's more of probably something a little bit more familiar with you guys, like, your Facebook, Instagram, advertising, right? And I think, one of the things I like to think about with this slide is how many iterations do you think P.F. Chang's went through on the creative on that? Like a lot, right? There's not really a perfect formula. I mean, everybody might tell you there is. I think the best formula is, if you have time, maybe try a different ad style. Try a different call to action. Try a different image. For me, I kind of like a kind of an on-brand lifestyle image that's a bit of an arresting image. I like that. That's interesting. A little glass of wine, that's nice. Does it have anything to do with P.F. Chang's? Absolutely not, right? You know what I mean? So absolutely not. So not all advertisers are created equal. And I want to show you where I believe you exist in the hierarchy. Single frequency durable good, like a desk, right? You're not going to need a desk for a while, right? So when you have a cost per click investment, it needs to be extremely tightly managed. You're going to run however many ads you run, however many clicks you get, whatever that costs you, and you better have margin in the sale of that desk and the campaign that you're running to support that. Because if you don't, you just lost money selling a desk, right? Not a great place to be. I don't do a lot in durables. That client I just talked about on Target, I have other reasons that I believe them to have a lot of opportunity, but it's hard, right? It's hard. This is what I talk about, low complementary durables, like toys, right? My kid collects a specific type of toy. So if you can kind of get them into your brand, maybe there's an in-brand repurchase there, right? So you get to start playing a little bit of games with, with the desk, there's no games. The economics have to make sense. With toys, there's a little bit of games to play, right? The brassiere I find to be a high complementary durable, right? We see they'll buy 5 of the same style. We see they'll come into the brand, and there's many different styles, and there are many different colors, and all of a sudden we've got their whole kind of brassiere purchasing happening in our brand. I call that high complementary. So do I have to run an advertising campaign that makes money on the first sale of the bra? Probably not. I get to play a little bit around with that, right? That's called lifetime value. Then we talk about consumables. Love consumables, right? You guys are even better than all this, right? So it's Drano. Here's an example, Drano. Is there lifetime value in Drano? Probably, and the Drano guy would probably tell you. How often do you use Drano? Hopefully never, right? Hopefully never. Probably not the best consumable to be selling. Also toxic, it's like a hazmat, there's all sorts of other problems. Diapers, love diapers, right? Let me tell you what, Procter & Gamble knows, the Pampers folks, they know exactly, when they run an ad, what the expected value of that mom is. I've talked with them, I know these guys. right? Kraft, General Mills, every single brand, they know if I can get you as a new category entrant into my brand, I know what that's worth to me. So what happens to cost per click on Amazon in those categories? Here's the example I'll give you. Dog food. My friends have run all the big brands, like Blue Buffalo, or whatever. Nobody ever changes their dog's food because it makes them sick. They throw up all over the house, right? So if somebody is searching for dog food, they don't like their current dog food, or they just bought a dog. And either way, you've got that could be 15-year lifetime value on that brand. Those clicks are incredibly expensive. Could easily be paying $30 for the click on a $15 bag of dog food. Why? Because you got a 15-year tail, unbelievable brand preference, right? So I want you to nod your head on the dog food thing because you go, it's expensive, but I kind of get it. Like, they're going to hang on to that client, right? So I'm kind of leading you where you're going to be. Then we talk about a finite service, like go to Google, thinking about putting in a patio, right? You're not going to put in another patio for 20 years, right? So this is kind of what I call a finite service. Maybe this guy, this handyman guy, the hardscape guy, he's going to kind of have a relationship with you, but is that big ticket going to happen again? Probably not. Then I like the defined frequency service, right? Maybe you get the pest guy quarterly or something like that. All of this informs, how do I invest? How do I measure my investments? Then the evergreen service, like a QuickBooks, right? $30 a month, right? So I just wanted to show you the spectrum. I actually think you are at the pinnacle of, and this is a sincere belief. I think you guys are kind of the unicorn, right? For specific reasons that I can articulate to you. You are an open-ended recurring service. You actually control the user experience. So if I'm selling a consumable product, I can't go into your house and say, well, actually, you're doing that wrong, right? You're using the product wrong. I'm trying to avoid dissatisfaction. I can't do that. You have control of this experience. You have very, very high potential frequency, right? Somebody will take a lesson once a week, right? There's very few service businesses that can get once a week high dollar frequency. You can also turn on and turn off your advertising. We're talking about filling up your barn. It's full. Turn the ads off. Personally, I think you should probably keep them on because I think it's good to let your old clients go and have new clients coming in, but that's just me. You control cost and you control value very, very tightly in real time. This is not like your new clients, they get paid $100 more than the old clients. You can do whatever you want, right? So this is control that informs ROI and value perception. There's actually an extremely high barrier to entry. The other example that I'll use is a pressure washing business. A lot of pressure washing businesses out there, fairly low CapEx. It's a van, it's a pallet with a bunch of water, and it's a thing, right? Those can pop up and create competition. You guys need like barns and horses and tack and people and experience. Creates a moat for you, for someone stealing your customers, and for you to go, if I'm turning somebody on to the industry, to the opportunity in this geographic region, I got a good chance of hanging on to them, rather than turning them on to the idea of pressure washing and they go to like the guy, the other guy. An unbelievably high word of mouth quotient, right? I mean, so you guys already know this. They're talking to their friends, they're talking to their neighbors, they're posting pictures of their kids, right? So when you fill up your school, you actually kind of get a leverage or an amplification effect. Not all industries have this, right? Because I deal kind of like across all of them. It's also, it's an experiential sale. At the end of the day, that is very helpful with respects to trial. Commodity sales like rats, I have to get the plumber here. Experiential sale is something that people are excited about, they're intrigued about. You're selling the sizzle, not the steak. Also, there's a high emotional identification service. Nobody really cares where they get their oil changed. You guys provide an emotional resonance that is unlike many of the other service businesses. So where's the net? I mean, where I think you net out is it's gonna kind of come down to understanding where you are in the spectrum and committing to kind of saying, they're supposed to make it easy for me, right? I kind of control all these variables. I have a lot more power when I have a full business. I have a lot more power when I have more clients. I want clients, right? And the economics are very, very strong. So kind of like you go, okay, like, I don't know, you guys might be running it now. You might be thinking I don't do a good job of it. I mean, the first thing I would encourage you to do is, guys, like, don't sweat it. Like, it's fun. It's like it's like you go to the casino, you put, put 20 grand on the craps table. It's maybe not as, for some people, it might be really fun. For other people, it might be nerve-wracking, right? Right off the bat, you don't have to pot commit all of your resources. It's very important to test and learn and to not sweat it. By the way, I don't always give that advice. I have other brands where I'm like, you're a $4 million share on Amazon. You're up against somebody who's now 18 million and you don't even know it, and you need to go crazy and you need to freak out. That's not what I'm saying to you guys, right? I'm saying to you guys is kind of test and learn and experiment. I would take the point of view that there are unlimited clients. Within normal boundaries of like demographics and geographic availability, like you're not running an ad in a magazine. Like everybody's on Facebook or Instagram or Google or whatever the heck it is, your upper funnel stuff, you can always activate people. I would take the orientation, there are unlimited clients out there for me, and if I gotta go do something about that. Personally, I fire clients. If they're toxic, you got a bad vibe, they don't pay their bills. Brian's been good for me in that regard. I'm a people pleaser. I don't like firing clients. It's annoying to get a new client. But every single time I do it, I'm happier. I am able to replace my clients, and the relationship is always better, and usually, 9 times out of 10, financially, it's better too. I call this an emotionless pursuit of clients. You should have your social media advertising or whatever it is feeding you a funnel of people that you don't care about yet. They're not people yet. They're an inbound lead. They're a warm lead. If you don't get them, you never had them in the first place, right? I'm an emotional person. I really deeply care about my clients. And I have learned sometimes, I rarely don't get the business, but I've learned it's like, never had it in the first place, right? And so what you want is that pipeline of inbound leads. You really want that, because then you can say, this is a numbers game. When they become a real person to you, then you care about them, then you zhuzh them, like you guys, I know you all can know how to zhuzh them. And then you can control what you can control, right? Because then once they're at your facility, then that money becomes real. Because like, that's the lifetime value. That's the dog food. Hang on to them. Or fire them because they're replaceable. But try to hang on to them, because that is how you can influence your ROI in a way that other industries would kill for. I mean, dude, I have clients, you wouldn't even believe how much money they spend. Drives them crazy. They're like, they're not using the product right. We've changed all the content. We've done this. Fitting and sizing and apparel, right? They're like, they just bought the medium. They didn't read the sizing chart over and over and over and over again. They spent good money to get those people into the funnel. And they're like, it doesn't fit me. Send it back, right? It's like crazy. They'd love to have what you guys have. Word of mouth and retention then becomes a leverage or amplification effect upon your advertising. And this is 5th grade math. We're going to talk through the math, but this is 5th grade math, guys. Cost per acquisition or customer acquisition cost is your CAC, right? Just the money you spend to get that first ride, right? You can also look at this as cost per inbound lead. I prefer to kind of look at this as, what does it cost me to get somebody in the saddle paying me for that first lesson or whatever, whatever it is. You can look at this any number of ways. Look, first off is like, don't sweat this. Don't do a big amount of money in terms of an investment where you're gonna feel like, oh my God, I just wasted or whatever. Like, I talk to clients in my space, and it's like, we have a hypothesis that if you advertise this product on this search, it's going to do well. Until we prove that out, it's still a hypothesis. So just don't sweat it. Just don't put too much money in. And then when you get good at it, sure, then you put the money in, right? You know, I think the other thing is in terms of creative, that's where you definitely can't skimp. And you have to remember, if you take one thing away from this presentation, you're on Amazon on your phones these days. You're on your social media on your phones these days. The second we sit down in our desk chair, we start thinking in desktop computer mode. Sure, 20 or 30%, there's gonna be a percentage that are there. Most of them are on their phones. So when you do your creative, don't do a bunch of tiny words. Don't try to get a bunch of messages across. Get something that's gonna look really good on an iPhone. Huge brands fail this every single day. We also sometimes call this the out-of-home test. The graphic designer is designing a billboard on their computer. It goes up on the interstate. I don't even know what they're advertising, let alone what brand it is. They spend $500 a month for the billboard. Get out of here, right? Smart targeting. They make it easy for you, especially like Facebook. Brian's really good at this. Like demographic targeting. Are they outdoor enthusiasts? What's the household income, right? What I would always encourage you to do is start really tight. Yeah, we want rich people who like outdoor stuff, maybe even horse stuff, right? Then we can expand that bubble, right? We can expand that bubble. People have kids or whatever, you know, you can do all this stuff. We're not here to talk about the semantics of it. Like that's the easy part. Just go in there and turn a campaign on, load a picture, it's not hard. Or improve what you're doing. Don't sweat it. Don't sweat this, don't sweat it, don't sweat it. This is where you get wrapped around the axle. If you look at it as I'm spending whatever dollars a day, I didn't get a conversion in 3 days, you gotta get over it, right? It's gonna be like this, and then you get the whale. I have a client, and like the July numbers weren't looking great, and then they got a B2B sale on Amazon for $7,000 in one order on one product. It went from being their worst performing campaign to their best performing campaign in 1 minute. And then we start going, well, how'd we get that? Like, what's this dude all about, right? And then we can actually go put that back into the thing. So again, you should be thinking, we'll do a little bit of math when I turn the slides off, but thinking about it in terms of, you do it however you want. I would encourage you to think about it as, what does it cost me to get somebody's butt in the saddle, right? Because imagine what it costs on dog food. To get a $15 sale. I don't think you guys are doing $15 lessons. And then LTV. You gotta know this. You gotta know, on the average, what's somebody worth to me. Gross and net, right? These are all you gotta really think about. What's it cost me to get in the butt in the saddle? What's my blended lifetime value gross? And then you have expenses. What's my blended lifetime value net? What does that inform? That informs, what am I willing, like what works for me from a CAC, right? Maybe I need to do more, maybe I need to, usually the answer is you need to do more, but you need to be smart about the targeting, micromanage your creative, right? That's it. So I want to talk through some like CAC, LTV stuff. So like Brian was starting to tell me some of the industry stuff and I was like, la, 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 like I want to hear it live. Does anybody know like what their CAC is? Does anybody know what their LTV is? What do you got? Okay.
Brian makes us do this.
I'll give you an example to make you feel good, okay? In a consumable product purchase, we'll talk about Amazon or Walmart or Target advertising. If it's a high margin consumable product, right? Your ROI on that initial sale could be as low as 10 cents on the dollar, because we're banking on the LTV. Obviously for a desk, throw it out the window, it's different. We're not selling desks here, right? And that's, we're talking about 80% plus margin product, right? Highly competitive, maybe like healthcare, personal care, where you have high loyalty. But that customer acquisition cost can easily be, for a $10 purchase, can easily be $70, $80, $90, maybe $100. If a big brand comes into the space with a big splashy launch, guess what? Everybody's cost just went up. Do you want the new customers or not? but you're not playing in a finite pool of demand. Amazon is, Walmart is. There's only so many people search for whatever, cookies, toilet paper, whatever on Walmart on any given day, right? So all the brands are fighting over that. You're more so doing demand creation in paid social, or you're scooping up searches on, on Google, which could be horse lessons near me, but it could also be adjacencies, right? Things to do this weekend. Anybody ever tried to do adjacency advertising on Google? Right, so I always think in terms of adjacencies. Horse riding for 40-year-old men. Horse riding for 40-year-old men who have kids. Horse riding within 10 miles. Horse riding within 30 miles. And you start getting to adjacencies. Stuff to do. Marriage, what is it? Anniversary gift. Like whatever, right? Those are adjacencies. You don't know if you're offering plays until you run enough advertising in that core or in that adjacent to prove it out. Here's the example, right? If I'm selling a $10 product and the bid for that click is $5, first click, $5, I get nothing. Second click, $10, I get nothing. This is where you go, well, hold on a second. I've already spent $10. The thing sells for $10. Screw it. $15, nothing. $20, nothing. $25, nothing. $30, they buy 5. Right? You got to give yourself a little bit of space to see if it works for you. Did you have any to?
So last week I spent $419 in advertising, and I got 2 subscriptions, so it cost me $209 per subscription.
What's your first lesson?
My subscription price, so they pay a monthly fee of $350.
What's your intro lesson?
My intro lesson is $75.
So but you got subscriptions? Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, that's wildly popular.
Right.
Is your barn full?
Yeah, more than full.
Yeah. So I mean, for you, like, we'd be like second barn. Call it the second barn. Get a bigger barn.
Hire instructors and add more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like when I have, like, no joke, when I have clients and they tell me what you just told me, right? I'm like, well, what you have is a slot machine. If you have a slot machine, you put $1 in,
you get $2 out.
you get $2 out. You just feed that slot machine all day, right? And not everything is like that because you got to play the lifetime value math. You could think about things like that, right? But that is my honest answer. There's very, 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 very few industries. Because what happens, especially if you think about like Walmart or something, or whatever, like a search for whatever. If it's a slot machine, then the smart brands and the smart players, of course, they're going to feed that slot machine to be more competitive, drive costs up. Paid social is not a slot machine. I'm sorry, paid social is not a finite pool of search demand. It's not a finite pool of browse demand. You got eyeballs, but there's like really no practical limit to the number of eyeballs for you guys on paid social. And if you really think about Google in a smart way, there's really almost no limit in Google either. Look, and also the other thing I should just mention is like you can promote posts, of course. I don't know if anybody here is on LinkedIn advertising, Reddit advertising. So I mean, I just try to like not make things super complicated. But some of the best ROI that I've seen is where people kind of look at it a little bit sideways, right? I'm gonna educate physical therapists on LinkedIn that this thing. Actually, I'm not a nerd. Yeah, I can tell this. You had like a walker or a rollator, right? Well, they developed one that you could go downstairs. It's pretty cool. Nobody knew it existed. And they also didn't have $10 million for a splashy marketing campaign. So they targeted physical therapists on LinkedIn just to say, hey, you should tell your patients that this exists. Well, come to buy it on Amazon. Went crazy. Obviously, it was a lag there. But just like, thinking about how you generate market demand in the digital era, like you really should be trying to fill, I think, personally, you should be trying to fill your barn because the people are there. They want to be sold to, I don't know if anybody wants to do any like LTV calculations or lifetime value calculations.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, let's do it.
How are you calculating that?
Okay. So your subscription is $350.
Per month?
How long do you hang on to them on average?
I'm mean, I have people that have been with me, I've only been in business for a year, and I have people that started with me a year ago and are still
Yeah.
going strong.
So I've been
But
in
not all.
business for 10 years,
Yeah.
and I would say that like 6 to 8 years is how long people tend to stay with a pro.
I think it's closer to 3. We actually average it all out.
But I like 3. I like 3. You can get really crazy because then you go, okay, if I'm targeting this demo, this is what the LTV looks like for this demo. I like 3. I was even going to say like 2, because you're gonna have people drop out after a month or 2,
Conservative, yeah.
right? But that's where that control element really comes into play, because just so few industries have that kind of secret sauce where you have control, you have that unlimited upside, word of mouth. If you're really truly building your LTV model, you got to build in word of mouth. You got to build in upsell, cross-sell, whatever. You really truly try to bake that in. So if your subscription is 300, I'm terrible at math. $300, like, so 2 years, maybe that's $8,000. Let's just like cheat it. Let's just like cheat it down to 6 or something like that, right? If you say, okay, LTV of an average client, that if I can get them in, if I get their butt in the seat, it's worth $6,000 to me. That kind of math is what the physical therapist chains are looking at, right? If I can get a patient in, it's worth thousands. All I got to do is hang on to them and keep them coming back, right? That's why on Google, the cost per click for like physical therapists can be very expensive. I've not seen inflated CPCs on Google, and I'm also more talking about Facebook. So here's to bring it home, right? So that was like, couldn't have imagined a better softball than that one. That's ridiculous. $6,000. You can bring in hundreds and hundreds of people in your inbound lead pipeline. You can have 19 people show up, look you in the eye, and walk away, and it still makes sense to run the ads, right? You don't have to like that you're just feeding the stock price of Facebook. Like, nobody has to like that part about it. But for you, what it comes down to is having the conviction of, I do understand what my CAC is. I do understand what LTV is for me. And your $6,000 that's a gross figure. So you got to net that down. But either way, you can still bring in hundreds of people. You have any thoughts on CAC? I have a thought about what I think CAC is in your industry.
I think we divide it by monthly churn
Yeah.
percentage. So if you lose 10% a month, it's $3,500. If you lose 5%, no.
Yep. I'm saying, what do you think in terms of like get a butt in the seat CAC? Like,
Well, I love this conversation because I was just talking to another client this morning who said he spent $1,500 and he was upset that he only got 9 subscriptions. I paid $350 a month, and he wants to know what's wrong with his ads. And I get this all the time. I don't mean to pick on it, but it's about doing, because the experience of it is brutal. Because just what you're saying, it's a lot of clicks, good spam, but we have to run the numbers. And I appreciate what you're saying, because it's what I'm trying to say is you guys have this amazing opportunity, and all I hear is people complaining about how hard it is, but the other industries are screaming about time. Because of course people don't know how to advertise, so it's cheap, it's easy, you have a high lifetime value, low cost to acquire a client.
and it's an emotional thing too. Like, do you think I care about the 30 million people who didn't click my ad on Target? Totally not thinking about that. You guys have an inbound lead that ghosts you, that sucks. You got the guy shows up for one ride, ghosts you, that sucks. Stop caring. Stop caring. It's math, man. And then love the guy that keeps coming back, or the woman, or the kid, whatever. Right? Love them. We love repeat customers. Right? I do it like all that on like crazy steroids. Millions of dollars of scale. We're looking quantitatively at repurchase rates by SKU and cross-sell. We're doing crazy stuff. You have to do that. Run the ads. Fill your barn. Watch your customer acquisition costs. I think a reasonable one in this industry is probably $500. I mean, 1,000. Like, 1,000 are still kind of high, but I bet you, I think that $500 to get an actual customer paying on some sort of a subscription model with the LTV that you just gotta have, that has to make financial sense. I bet you your practical CACs are more like 150, something like that. Maybe 150 to 300. And I'd probably take 500. If I sharpen my pencil, it probably makes financial sense at around 1,000. That's kind of like, that's just me knowing nothing. Yeah.
What's your sense of like, and I have not done this, I should probably be up to you. What a Facebook ad costs in our domain, in this domain?
How much does a car cost? It's like my kind of head. Brian, do you have like a?
Okay.
Well, just there's like so many factors that weigh into how much does a Facebook click cost or ad? CPM, PPC.
$2 a click.
A click, not
But
an hour.
you're right. For the most part, people that spend $150 get a client $300, and it does make sense to spend an hour. And people need to be doing this math, and we've got to realize that it's you have the ability to print money. What's difficult about this business is creating supply.
So that
If you
week,
have supply,
You have power.
yeah, but then it's like having.
Oh, you're saying supply is like, yeah.
Like you.
I would say if you have demand, you have power.
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You get a lesson course, you get an instructor. Now you have a certain amount of supply.
Yes.
And
Fill it up.
It's hard for people to understand how to do that dance right. Sometimes they oversupply and then they can't fill it, you know.
That was like the on-off thing I was talking about, right? Like there's other industries that don't really have that luxury. Like the oil change shop. Like they're just hemorrhaging customers, but they have to keep it on. You guys can hit a point where it's just like you can pause them. I generally encourage a warm pipeline. This is like kind of, and Brian did say I was a start, but like, I mean, for me, like, there's probably always a client that you don't let, doesn't pay their bills or whatever they do, they don't cook the hooves. I mean, I don't know. You guys, I can tell I'm out of my depth here. But it's like, it feels good to have power. It feels good to have pricing power. I mean, this is kind of what it gives you. If you have a full barn and more people coming in, you know, pricing power. You gotta do the best, you gotta get it. But that's what I would be thinking about. That's the business side of horse businesses that I find incredibly attractive, because you start to get pricing power. Yeah.
I have a question about the ads. So
Yes.
when you're running the Facebook ads, like their information, it goes into, I use Impulsion, so it goes into there, but it only connects to either their Facebook or their Instagram. I don't have email address, I don't have phone numbers. Would you send them to like a lead magnet instead to collect their actual contact information to get them on your mailing list? I mean, because if they don't look at their messenger, I've had trouble getting back in touch with people that have gotten in touch with me. through
Yeah.
Messenger.
I have a thought on this, Brian. Do you have a thought?
There's a native Facebook forum now. That looks great. And that's what I do with all my advertising. You
Yeah.
click on the Facebook ad, and then if you choose campaign objective leads, and then instant forms. If you click on my Facebook ad, an instant native Facebook form populates. I collect the information, it automatically integrates with Impulsion, it automatically starts texting, automatically starts emailing the client.
Okay.
Anything that can take friction out of that process is what I was gonna like. If you have a landing page, not a lot going on. If you're doing natively, even better, right? Because like that's a Facebook specific example, but like you could be running on another platform that you find interesting. It's like, okay, it's gonna be a landing page on my website. It shows a happy person on a horse. We love horses, and something straight, whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, and scale is different. If you're like if you're a small barn versus a big barn, you know, you could be literally dealing with 100 inbound leads a day. There's like a scale and organization kind of a thing there as well.
When you're trying to figure out CAC, do you take into account the like minimum amount of time that someone would be there? So like we have the 90-day minimum, so.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
If we can get someone to sign up for a subscription, the minimum they're gonna be there it's 90 days.
You,
How do you kind of?
yeah, you set your own goalposts on CAC. So CAC is how much do I spend to acquire somebody to do what I want them to do, right? In the product space, it's really easy to buy the thing, right? For you guys, it sounds like, you know, she had there's like a subscription thing versus a trial lesson, whatever, like that I think starts to inform what CAC works for me, right? And then to go fine tune things. Well, is my creative good? Right? Is my creative getting too many, there's like levels to this, right? Is my creative getting too many accidental clicks? Like that, that's why I like the restaurant one, the P.F. Chang's. Because I'm like, it's like, is this a trip to Italy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like curiosity clicks. I don't like, oops, you know? And so like, that's a tough one. Also on the $75 trial ride, do you have it kind of makes you start to pressure test. Because when you're thinking about CAC, thinking about LTV, you go, do I have a process in place to upsell into the 350? Do I have a process in place where once I get them in there at the 75, they can actually give a coupon to a buddy to do it at 50, right? You can you're like, well, I paid the CAC for this dude, so let me see if he's got a buddy, and all of a sudden, you know, those are the types of things, the levers that I would be thinking about. Does that answer your question, or?
That's a huge thing that we all need to be doing, and a couple people are trying to trial this huge, is you don't need to wait for the referral ask. You can immediately get a referral on day one.
The Amazon equivalent of that is you get a product at your house, and I'm including a coupon, because the little piece of paper costs me like nothing, to buy some complimentary product within the same brand family. So like in the brassiere example, if you bought like this style, like a racerback or something like that, maybe I'm selling you a really luxurious sleep bra with like a good CTA, like a good 10% call to action, right? You know what I mean? You know, again, I'm like not trying to workshop your business because I know literally nothing about running a horse business, but it's like what I would start to think about it is to reward the redemption and the referral. So it's like if you, like no pressure, but if your buddy takes the ride and this, you know, then you get a free thing and, you know, and they get a champagne when they show up, you know, something to make it like, not like, hey, harass your friends, right? Maybe there's something in it for you, there's something in it for them, you know, rather than just harassing them. Yeah, so in CAC, I mean, yeah, like CAC is a pretty straightforward metric. What does it cost you to get X behavior? If that's a purchase or whatever, right? I mean, you could also look at it as an inbound lead, which is not a CAC, but like that's your cost per inbound. So here's the example would be, I convert X% of inbound leads. You know, once you start doing this for a while, you get a pretty good idea of what you do, right? It's like, okay, if I'm converting X% of inbound leads, I want my cost per inbound lead to be $20, right? Because maybe you say, well, it's a little nebulous because like sometimes I get the initial ride, and sometimes I end up like getting the wife, and she's buying, and he's kind of shows up with 2 kids. You know, I think sometimes like you need to streamline, make it easier on yourself. This is what my inbound leads cost. $2 a click, 10 clicks, somebody's got to hit that form. If not, my creative good enough, my VA or myself following up on the messaging, did I sharpen my pencil? Is there a barn down the road? Sometimes there's like patterns, right? So you go, oh, they're going to Google and they're looking for horse lessons, and the barn down the road for me is like literally half price.
See a big difference in sort of the margin between service sales versus product sales, meaning one of the things I'm playing around with is a product that we use in our barn that we love. We have these slow feeders in our barn. I wish that more people would use them, and we use them for all of our horses. And I have a lot of people that say, where'd you get those? So I'm looking at like what the distribution model would look like, and is there a big margin between a certain thing? Because I think about it in the barn setting, there's all kinds of things that potentially localize barn, like salons.
Yeah, of course.
Products,
Yeah, very
they
familiar.
use them on their things, and then they also sell them. Is there a big margin difference there?
Yeah, I give you like a 3-part build on that. So the first is like substitutes. So if your slow feeder that you prefer is like $100, but they can find like some kind of cheap one on Amazon or wherever for $40 or Tractor Supply for $40, you need to have like conviction and why that one's worth the $100, for one. You know, for two is I think channel control by the brand. So like, let's just say, like, let's just put that issue on the shelf. If the brand's not doing a good job of channel control, and you're like, this thing's on eBay all day for 30 bucks, what's going on? Then all of a sudden you're kind of not gonna have much margin because there's somebody like me, like I do big scale, millions a month, like in product sales, right? So I'm not trying a lot of times, like if I was running like an arbitrage business, buy it for 10, sell it for 20, or something like that. I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna maximize my margin. I'm like, I want it all. Like I want to sell all of it, right? So I think for you is figuring out where do you sit in the ecosystem of like, what are the substitutes, readily available substitutes? Because you have a trust quotient that's already gonna give you something, and then you go, okay, what's market price? You know, and then I think, and then being honest with yourself about things like cost of capital, are they gonna come back to you and return it? Like all this other stuff, because you gotta make it a fair margin for yourself. One of the things I see on these product-based businesses, it becomes so easy to ignore. Well, I had to buy 50, and I had to pay shipping, and I know I cost of capital, and I got $3,000 tied up, and like that kinds of things. And you've got the ability to take POS at the barn. So otherwise, I love pointing site upsell and cross sell. Like otherwise, like sell me a sandwich, sell me a soda, sell me anything. Like while I'm there, and for me, I'm pretty not I'm not super cost conscious. So I love it. I find that to be convenience. So even in that situation, it's like, okay, you can buy from Tractor Supply for 100, and I sell it for 120. You're not going to be seen as price gouging, right? You try to sell for 200, and you'll think it.
Because it's a convenience factor.
Absolutely, and you price for that. And if somebody says, well, hold on, they're $100 at Tractor Supply, then get your ass on that Tractor Supply. Have a great day. Okay, you pay $1.69 for a 20-ounce Coke at 7-Eleven. And you get 17 liters at Costco for $1.60. Go to Costco, fight everybody, get through the chicken line. They're sitting here for you, bud. If you care that much about 20 bucks, I'm gonna go on Facebook and find a new client to replace you. Now, but don't be a dick. Like, don't be a, the rule definitely is like, don't be a dick. No, for real though, because like that's what we find is like, I work with these brands, they're trying to get a big premium, and it's like, in my world, what they try to do is, well, we want to be competitive on Walmart. And sometimes they're in Walmart, right? For example, the shelves. But then on our D2C site, on our own website, we want to charge the premium. Then you look like a dick.
And I just feel like there's a lot of forced products for some reason, and not good distribution models of a lot of forced products with the site to figure out who to buy it from.
Yes.
And so if I'm fighting.
And shipping minimums too from a lot of the websites.
Like,
Shipping
if
minimums.
I have to fight to figure
Yeah.
out to source this, one product from.
Yes.
Then I gotta believe that people, not just in my barn, but locally outside of my barn, are also fighting that. And why is the distribution model so not? I don't want to.
And if you're buying manufacturer direct, you should negotiate with them too. Make sure you negotiate with them. Because they're gonna say, well, here's the price. Well, shipping included. No, you have to pay shipping. Okay. If I buy more, do you pick up shipping? Do you offer financing? Doesn't hurt to ask about any of that stuff. So I do, like, I'm usually repping brands, right? So it's like different, but it's like everything is negotiable. You know what a great time to buy product is? End of the quarter, end of the year, definitely end of the quarter. I mean, I've seen clients make really bad decisions at the end of the year. Because they want a bonus. Really does. They know it's going to destroy their whole value chain. Nobody cares. They want a bonus. Take advantage of it. Yeah.
In terms of creative,
Yeah.
for things like Facebook ads, do you have a preference for long copy versus short copy versus a lot of words and a great photo? What if you're
Almost no words. Super compelling. Call to action. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. We're selling the experience, for sure. Price, in this space, price by better. But like, again, it's like on the phone. So even the words that you have, they gotta be real big if they want to, and think about like even Amazon, like the image carousel, we're Tinder swiping for hot boys, right? We're not like, we're not reading. But if we get emotionally invested in the product, then we're gonna read. So it's like ding, 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 click, then we can show them some more information. What we don't want is like, oh, paragraph, oh, nobody wants to read.
So guys, we have time for one more question for Conor.
Oh, yeah.
Last question, if anybody's got one.
Hope it was helpful. I was like, I wish you guys the best. Yeah.
I wanted this to be a backwards look for Conor. What do you think is the sexiest aspect of the horse business that we might not see because we're so close to it?
That's a great question.
Two. Okay. Am I still on camera? Whatever. People try to say smoking cigarettes is not cool. Okay? Smoking cigarettes is super cool looking. Okay?
On a horse.
Everything's cool on a horse. Riding a horse is really cool. And I hope I don't offend people. Like, look, I don't think that the horsey attire at the shows is super cool, but there's nothing cooler than like riding a horse and looking good. It's fun, but it's also super cool. In my opinion, this is my opinion, right? So I think it's like, you know, you have that like, it's really fun to do. It looks easy, but it's not super easy. It takes time to get good, but it also looks super cool, right? So I think it's like, sometimes when we get really close to something, it becomes hard to see how other people kind of envision it. You're like they're trying to sell feature benefit. Back it up. Sell the sizzle, right? I think a lot of brands that I work with, that's their big problem. They're like, and it has 17 millimeters of like, hold on, man. Like, come on. You know what I mean?
Can I add something for that? I feel like we just ran an ad with video instead of photos. I kind of work backwards from getting people excited because I think a lot of times, a lot of beginner ads I see, it's like a little girl or it's like beginner lesson. That's not really exciting. So I'm trying to get like adults or guys involved or other one like more people. Our video that we ran was all action based.
Love it.
Here's show jumping, here's eventing, here's it's kind of support one of the riding center, so I took some of their like little montage video and made a 20-second clip. We got 150 leads out of that. Wow. Because they're scrolling through that, instead of just like, oh, here's a horse. Like, oh, what's this kind of cool? What's this jumping? How the road across the
A little kid
Yeah.
with money's not super cool.
And you guys can hire somebody like Dwight. He even said he'd do it. He'll fly to your barn and make like a really cool sizzle video. And he's the same thing. Like he'll have the same eye as Conor. Like Conor, I love Conor because he's the first guy that doesn't make fun of me for riding. He actually genuinely. I'm like, check. Like you really think it's cool? And like he comes with me and watches me ride steeplechase and takes videos and like, he's like, it's really cool. But like as a guy, like I grew up, like just getting bullied for riding because it's not cool where I was from. But he's right. Like the little hunter jumper outfits are not that cool. But like being on a horse, you know, and that's kind of what we teach.
See what they say when you're charging at them if they think it's not cool. With full barding, like you're gonna run them over.
So we're gonna take a little break, guys. Conor does not have to be here to help you guys. He just does it because he's a great guy. So thank you guys so much, Conor, for your time. He's not. And if you've got a brand you want to take on Amazon, you should talk to Conor. We do have some clients, actually I need to talk to you about that, Conor, that do have products for Amazon.
Yeah.
So now you guys know a guy.
Sell plastic on Amazon all day, every day.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.